If I've learned anything over the years, it's that when something comes into the mind, whether it be an idea, a vision, a dream, it's there for a reason. But the thing is that the timing of when that occurs in the mind to when it happens in the physical material world, it's not for you to know. This is my experience. And I know that there's so much out there regarding manifestation, and if you can see it, it's going to become it. And even you must work towards or put action towards the vision that moves through. Yes to it all, because as dear Janae, my loved one, says, yes, and like, yes, that can be true, and something else can be true at the same time. This is all to say that the vision, the seed that was planted in my mind, at least for season 3 of this podcast, was all about parenting. And I've really been sitting with this for some time around wanting to be in conversation with individuals regarding parenting. But something magical happened is that over the course of the past 3 months, life lifed, and I've realized that I don't want to wait for season 3 to happen. I don't want to wait for the parenting season. Parenting season is going to happen. It's just, once again, that timing of how it's going to show up in the physical, that's out the window. We're not sure when that's going to happen. So here's the thing, is that life, as you most definitely know, is a continuous journey of these roller coaster experiences. And I just came back recently from an experience in Greece, one that from anybody else, they would have said, Renee, don't do that. You're not in a position to go travel. But my heart and my soul was like, oh, honey girl, we got to go do this. So we did it. So grateful we did. And we're going to start at the kind of end of the Greece experience and then backtrack the past 3 months. And the end of the experience involved this is that we went on, so it was a retreat, a yoga retreat, and we went on a group excursion to a local land. So we just walked and then hiked through the mountains. So we were on the eastern coast of Greece and really in the mountain region with this beautiful, fresh, clear waters. So much information. The waters are truly phenomenal. And so we're walking, and there's this beautiful church that's run down. It's older, and there's a bell, and I rang the bell. I was like, here we are, Lance. We have entered. So thank you for being here with us, and thank you for welcoming us. And the whole purpose of this field trip was to go to the water swimming pools, natural water swimming pools. So that's what we did. I did a little skinny dipping. Hello. Waters were glorious, and it just feels so good to skinny dip. And if you know what I mean, you know what I mean. And so the group was there. And then I found this rock, and this rock was like, Renee, hold me. And I was like, absolutely. The rock was beautiful. I was really feeling a feminine experience from the rock. And Greece in itself, from my perception, is very feminine. The moment I stepped off the plane, I was hit with this melting presence of slow, tender, sensual awareness. So this rock was in my hands and I didn't want to put it down. This was after I was clothed. And so I put the rock underneath the waterfalls. I was like, here you go, rock. Love the waters. Nyum, 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 nyum. And then everybody was down below in the lower watering hole space. And I was like, oh, honey girl, we got to go up. So I followed and I went up and up and up the trail. Nobody was around at that point. And I saw this really mystical swimming hole. So it was a bit deeper. larger, and the sun was streaming through and hitting the waters in such a way. And the real powerful part about this is that in this watering hole is where the water system was hooked up for all of the villages down below. So all of this mountain waters were part of, or were the village's drinking waters. Really crisp, really naturally filtered, and all of those healthy minerals. And just imagine the information and the wisdom that was living and continues to live in these waters being poured from the land itself into the waters, unfiltered by human. So all the watering systems were hooked up. And this rock is with me. And I was like, "Phew, okay." So we stripped down the clothes again. And I carried the rock into the waters. And I was like, here you go, rock. And then there's these waterfalls. And so I put the rock underneath the waterfalls. I'm not sure what I was saying at that point, but I was offering words. I was offering song. I was singing out loud. So the rock was receiving that. And then underneath one of the little waterfalls was a rock or a boulder in the swimming hole. So on top of that, the rock was then placed. So it ended up being a cairn when rocks are stacked, but it was only two. So this feminine rock ended up being offered onto the altar of this swimming hole at the start of the water systems for the peoples down below drinking these waters. I did not realize the importance of what took place until I was in book club yesterday, processing with the person who is in book club with me. And the potency of this, everyone, is that when one is crystal clear, in other words, when one is aware without any infiltration being through the cellular, or infiltration even being through the environment. When one is clear and open to the pulses that drive the person forward, such as myself, the pulse to walk up the trail, even before that, the pulse to hold this rock, listening to the words that aren't spoken, but listening to the words that are whispered within. When that happens, you don't need to know why, and you don't need to know what's going to happen after, and you don't even need to know if it's affecting you. All you need to know is that you're listening to the whispers within. Because as months passed, well, it's not months, it's as weeks have passed, this discovery of the potential potency of what took place with this rock being offered as a gift and the way in which the rock may be speaking to the waters. Everyone, this is key. This is key. Oh man, what a beautiful life we're living. And I acknowledge it's a beautiful life for many, and I acknowledge it's not a beautiful life for many. But at this moment in time, I'm very grateful for what's taking place. So this all took place because, from my belief, that when I went to Greece, I didn't have cellular. So I didn't switch my phone over. So I didn't have, yeah, Wi-Fi cellular. The villa did. But when I first landed, I took one video and then I was like, honey girl, what if we turn off the phone and put the phone in the closet the whole week? And that's exactly what I did. And what took place is that there was this attunement happening where I was moving purely because I my body wanted to move. In other words, I rose when I rose. I walked when I walked. I let go of the control of being where everybody else was. And I simply moved when I felt the pulse to move. So sometimes that meant that I joined the yoga class at the end of the practice when we were starting to have breakfast. Sometimes that meant that I was like the last one almost always to join the yoga class and at the beginning, or I missed the intro. Sometimes this meant that actually, all of the times, this meant that I didn't know what exactly time it was, but I had that feeling of, regardless of what the time is, wherever my feet are is exactly where I'm meant to be. When this happens, when we're provided the gift of disconnecting from all of the external interference and allowing the internal to move us forward, magic unfolds. And magic not in the way of, like a witch or Wiccan or even the fairies, but magic in the way of our birthright as a human is to be magic. Our birthright as a human is to be listening to that which is unspoken, not from the other, but from within. And what I experienced through this experimentation of putting the phone away is that's when the magic happens. And I'm not the first one to do this, everyone. There's still people out there continuously doing this. And before the cell phone happened, people were doing this. I'm sure the interference came more from an aspect of gossip or an aspect of disassociating X, Y, and Z. But it's really phenomenal, truly, to have this opportunity. And for all of the people tuning into this expression that is starting off season 3, is if you have the opportunity to allow the phone to not be in your mere presence, I strongly encourage you to do so and to witness who you are when and what experience happens when you move from the internal, not moving from when people say to move or when the group moves. Move for you and move when you say to move. This was all inspired months before, which is really cool how life stacks like that. An experience is had, a memory is had, and then life happens and you don't think anything of it. And then an opportunity comes along and it strings together, weaves together the past memory. And then you realize, oh, there's a connection here. It's a continuous building blocks throughout life. And as we're in this expression, I'm drinking mountain tea, which is native to Greece. I love mountain tea. Thank you. So many months ago, I was involved with someone who I love dearly. And he is someone who will forever be tattooed in my expression of living. And I'm grateful for this. And he's brought in the inspiration in my life multiple times to take a drastic different approach from what I have been doing. So one of those times was when I did the year experiment of sobriety, and that actually ended when I was in Greece. So I broke the sobriety in Greece, which felt really good. Yeah, we're human, and it was lovely to receive local Greek alcohol and breaking it that way. So that was one. But then the other was that months ago, he had shared with me that the power of not capturing everything. So the power, and when I say this, I mean through the phone. So putting the phone away and not taking the videos and not taking the pictures. And when I was with him, I did capture a few videos, but way less than I normally would have. And then I didn't think anything of it. Maybe I thought a little bit of it the past 3 months. Of my relationship with the phone, specifically for capturing life. And then Greece happened. And when the opportunity came to turn off the phone, the thought immediately turned back to this loved one of, ooh, honey girl, what if we don't capture anything? What if we don't have anything to provide back visually for loved ones or for community? What if it's all in the mind? What if it's the memories in the mind? And what if the only thing that is able to be shared out is the words, the memories, and then any physical, visual videos or photos that other people have captured, while of course giving credit to them? So that's exactly what we did. And there's no regret. There's definitely the sensation of, oh man, I don't have all of these pictures or videos to share with people. And then that also leads to like the feedback, meaning the lack of feedback, meaning I don't have the likes or I don't have the engagement or whatever it may be. But what took place and what's way more powerful, at least from my perspective, is that when I did that, now I'm realizing how important the external validation is or has been. And this has also been stacking, is realizing that I have been seeking external validation quite a bit for probably the majority of my life, to be honest. But regarding social media and such, yeah, continuously seeking external validation. And then when I noticed it even in the yoga retreat is how I was wanting the attention from other people. So to be able to put the phone away and really move when I wanted to move, I realized that it doesn't matter who pays attention to me because I'm paying attention to me. And that's super special. And it's a gift. And unfortunately, it's also a privilege, I feel, for it's a privilege in the way of having choosing to have the spaciousness and time to do so. Because if you don't have the time to put the phone away and be super present, then yeah, that's where the privilege aspect comes in. So when you enter this flow of life that I did, then I ended up bringing it back to Massachusetts in my life here as much as I could. I noticed how I wanted to keep the phone away more. So whenever I go to loved ones, I have the phone in the car, or when I'm at home, I have the phone upstairs if I'm downstairs. I noticed that my strongest connection to the phone is when I'm at work with the youth, and part of that is because seeing messages that are coming in from colleagues or also messages that are coming in from family members. And so that's a little like wonky right there, but overall, it's been really beautiful to witness two aspects. One is when and where I'm able to really feel in this like deep presence of not having the phone out. And then the other is noticing when I am disconnected from the deep presence, and presence only being where my feet are, because I do appreciate the social media platform. I appreciate Instagram. I appreciate the resources that come through technology. So it's not that I'm deeming it inappropriate. It's not that I'm deeming it even an interference. What I'm saying is that the interference comes from when you're engaging with life, with loved ones or yourself or nature. Why is the phone always out? Why does the phone always have to be what's capturing the moment? Why can't it be the mind that's capturing the moment? So here we are now, this rising, and this whole weekend, it's the long weekend, and I've been doing a deep clean, like probably the deepest clean I've done here in a very long time. So dusting and purging, and went through all of my childhood files and put them in a pile to burn. I went through the photos and trashed some photos. And I'm looking through these photos. And I'm realizing my loved one, so the whole thing that inspired them was this discovery about physical photos and their experience with what happened with them there. So I'm over here looking at the photos. I'm like, wow, it's nice to look back at them. Specifically, the ones of me as a child, those hold a different frequency, a different relationship with me, but the ones from like elementary, no, more like middle, high school, college, beyond, those photos don't really hold the same potency for me. It's like the memories there are a little bit more accessible than the ones that are from childhood. And when we string this together, And I'm not sure what your experience is. I'm not sure what your experience is with the photos in your life. I don't know what emotion comes up if you have photos in your living space and how often you look at them. Because when we're looking at photos as well, too, it brings us back to a time that is no longer here, which is beautiful. It's fine. We love those memories. But how often is that happening? So then we strung together this discovery with like discovery of the photos and purging them with this recent experience in Greece and how I don't have any photos beyond the ones that others took to capture those moments. But what I'm realizing is I don't really want them. I don't really want them because the experiences that I had when my feet were there and present on those lands are way more powerful than any photo that can be captured, truly and wholeheartedly. And it's all stacking, as I mentioned. So we're weaving it back to this experience of having a moment in life and not thinking anything of it. And then it stacks many months later, and you realize there's a thread. And then many months later, it stacks again, and you realize there's a longer thread. It's always weaving. Life itself is weaving throughout these choices that are made, these memories that are had. They're all in the moment it may seem not important. In the moment it may seem random. But it's my belief in this moment in time that it's not random. It's all here. It's all here for a very powerful reason. In Greece was very much an initiation, and the next conversation, the next share, the next episode that we'll be offering here is going to be a bit more of a deep dive into a specific experience I had and sharing that with you all because it was very potent. But I feel that all of this happened because of many reasons. One, I made the decision. Two, I made another decision to go on these experiences while I was on these lands. And three, and many other numbers, but three is that what happened prior to Greece. So I was moving through a deep, deep movement of grief, deep movement, quite possibly the most powerful journey of grief I've ever been through. And I say that because it was the first time really that I hadn't disassociated through that grief. It was a loss of a connection between a loved one and mine. And it came into my life unexpected. I did not expect that to happen. And part of me had an attachment to the experience. Part of me had the attachment to deep excitement and curiosity about a journey of reciprocity with a lover. And when that ended, there was this experience of truly feeling the horrific wave of emotions while simultaneously being frustrated with myself that I couldn't feel anger towards this person. I did a little bit, but not to the extent that other people say I should. And there's a continuous thread of empathy. There's a continuous thread of gratitude. There's a continuous thread of love. The same thing with a past person who I loved, and I've shared about this quite a bit, and that's what Chia-isms is all about. One day it will be published. That's a journey in itself. But it was the same thing, is that there was this connection with someone and this feeling of an attachment of what could happen and being sad that it never had the opportunity to take place. But then also being frustrated that why does everybody say I should be upset with this person? And why should everybody say I should be more angry with them? But the truth is that I just love them. And that's what it is. And so moving through this journey of grief, that's what it was this most recent time. It was the close experiences I've ever had to a reciprocal union. And it was the most authentic and feeling of home I've had. So when moving through this grief, Brother Keone Hanalei, he's been on the podcast before, and I've spoken about him quite a bit. He's like an unofficial mentor of mine. So he speaks about how grief is the process of completion. It's a process of closure, closing a circuit, completing a journey. So when looking at this journey of grief recently, there is this thread of an opportunity to complete, to close this journey of attaching to an outcome with a specific person, a specific partner. And then Greece came forward. And Greece being like a really feminine experience. And then you stack on the layer of the lands being feminine itself to me putting the phone away. And that's a very feminine choice because then you're like in the flow of life. You're intuitively moving. So we then land in the fields of completion. And how glorious it can be when the opportunities happen in life to move through the journey of grief with the essence of love, entering the lands of completion to then surrender into deep presence. And how the experience, the potency, the frequency of that presence, it's like a radio dial. It's really staticky, staticky, staticky. You get clear, you get super clear, and then you move it like a tiny bitty bit and then get staticky again. I'm wondering if it's the same with the journey through grief. So, when one is really allowing the body to feel the journey of grief, it's staticky at first. You can't really hear what's taking place. Staticky, staticky, you're confused with the emotions. There's so much moving through. You're grateful at one point, horrific at one point, sad at one point, angry at one point, sad again, depressed. It's this like, and then it's the emotions happening at the same time. So you're happy and sad at the same time, and you're depressed and grateful at the same time. It's such like a cluster of happenings. And when that takes place and you move through it, you're with it, your feet are where your body is. And you're allowing all of the emotions to be felt, all of the emotions to be recognized, then that dial of the radio becomes a little bit clearer. And what can happen is, from my experience, is that when that takes place, and love is the grounding altar, love is the roots of which you are living, then the opportunity ding, pops up for presence because you've already been practicing presence through this wheel of grief, through this cycling of grief. But when the opportunity of presence pops up, that's when the radio dial gets so crisp. And then when you say yes to the presence and you lean into it, but then you choose actively to be super present, you choose to have the interference of the phone or the images to be set aside, then that presence and that experience and those memories that are cultivated are on like the highest sound possible on the radio. And it's like when you hear a song and that song penetrates your soul, and now that song changes who you are. That song changes the perception of which you live. That's what happens. That's what happens when we move through this journey of love and grief and surrender and presence, but then you sustain the presence. And I understand how challenging it is because I am actively in the space of how to move through a sustained presence. Maybe not all day, because I just don't want to be honest. But in the moments that I really feel the whispers telling me to, and when I say the whispers, I mean the winds. And when I say the winds, I mean the intuitive movement that breathes through the body. And here's the kicker, everyone, is that in that journey of that radio dial, in the presence, in the movement of presence, the opportunities and the memories that form in the mind take place because you say yes to yourself and you say yes to the whispers. You don't second guess them. You have a strong relationship with yourself. You know yourself. You know that when you say yes, there is no failure. There's just experience. And there's no fear, or there may be a little fear, but the fear isn't overpowering. You are not overpowered because you know that when it's a yes in your body, it's going to move you closer to the frequency of clarity in presence. So it really lands into the space of power of presence. And we speak so much about it. I've spoken about it many years, and it's not I speak about it, it's not a new idea. It's ancient. It's an ancient exploration is presence because that's how our ancestors moved through the world was deep presence. And I can understand and I can understand how presence can be extremely uncomfortable because oftentimes it is. Oftentimes it doesn't feel good to be with yourself. Oftentimes it doesn't feel good to be around others. So to be present while around others that don't feel good, you don't want to be present anymore. But the thing is that when we follow the intuition or when we follow the whispers of movement, when it comes to the decisions that are made, I have been exploring the human design system for many years now, and I feel in my own individual life that the most powerful aspect of human design is the authority, which is the way in which one makes decisions. I know that the authority for me is an emotional authority. So it's so important for me to make decisions over the course of time. No longer, gone are the days of making decisions in the moment, whether it's a decision to go get ice cream with someone or whether it's a decision to move. Those are gone. And when I'm listening to the clarity that comes through of a yes or a no within me regarding a decision, and I listen to that and then I follow that, then the opportunity and the memory is always going to be exactly the path. And even if I don't follow it, and even if I don't listen to the inner authority, and even if I say yes when it would benefit me to say no, it's still a memory, could just be really uncomfortable. And even if I say yes, when the body says it's a yes, it's going to be a memory and it's still maybe really uncomfortable. I think of the man who I am very much love. That was a super uncomfortable and heart-wrenching experience. But would I say yes again? Absolutely. I would say yes and yes and yes and yes again and again and again and again again because the memories of love and the memories of joy and the memories of presence that were cultivated are the most beautiful treasure, is the most beautiful treasure I have in my life. And the lessons I've learned being who I am, how I love myself, how I appreciate myself, how I accept myself, how I forgive myself. It's really the myself journey. Very much has been supported by the discomfort of saying yes to a union that in the moment felt so good. And when the ending happened, it just didn't feel good. So if you haven't done so already and you're curious about it, I definitely would encourage you to go check out your authority within the human design system. And whether you reach out to me and receive support from myself or you go to so many other individuals who are out there, it's truly a tool that you can experiment with in your life. And if you have children or if you work with children, I cannot encourage you enough to find out your child's or the child whom you love, their authority within human design. Because imagine a world where the children know themselves. Imagine a world where the children know when it's yes for them and know when it's no for them. Because those children will become adults, and those adults will be the leaders of this world or will be the contributors of this world, as they already are, of course, but you know what I mean, in the state of power. And that weaves together a little bit of last season about education reform and my vision of having educational systems, and not in a space of academia, but in a space of supporting and fostering a child's authentic creativity and innocence and brilliance through the lens of the human design structure without dogma. Not saying anything's right or wrong or attaching to it, just truly from a place of exploration and experimentation. Everyone, experiment with your life. May life be an experiment and not from a place of judging or not from a place of competition. May those be let go of. May the experimentation come up from a place of pure curiosity of when I do this, what happens? Okay, cool, that's feedback. Then I take that feedback and I make another choice. And when I do this, what happens? And then you realize, hey, I really want to do an experiment for a longer duration of time. Yesterday in book club, I shared that I really would like to, and I began today, experiment with a long, glorious process of breathing intentionally in the risings. And that breath can vary, whether it's the breath of Ulu through the native Hawaiian practice, whether it's the breath of box breathing, whether it's the simplicity of simply noticing the sensations, inhaling and exhaling, or whether it's a more intense and intentional breath of energy and discomfort. May the breath be something that I say yes to experimenting with. And the thing about experimentation, everyone, is that the experiment is truly only you. You're the only one who can decide over and over and over and over and over again to sustain the experiment or to end the experiment, to begin the experiment again or to end it for all. And in that process, that's where this relationship with the self fosters and develops on a stronger level, because then you're becoming aware of how dependable you are to yourself. You're becoming your favorite person ultimately, because you're realizing, oh my gosh, I have sustained an experiment for a duration of time and I'm getting this feedback, and the feedback is potent, and I still choose to follow the experiment. And now out of all the humans in the world, I trust myself the most. And then when that happens, then you witness all of the people in your life who trust themselves the most. Because at the end of the day, everybody, we are simply a human. And to human is quite the experience. And it can be joyful and it can be painful. And what Brother Keone keeps reminding me is that may it be joyful, may it be full of pleasure. And that's what his ancestors have taught him. To rise and be like, whoa, I am here again. How awesome is that? And that doesn't say there's not going to be challenges throughout the day after you rise. But what it is this journey through presence and this journey of trusting yourself so much, and the decisions that you make are being the correct decisions, regardless of what other people think you should do. And then it's joyful. Not all the time, but more and more and more and more and more, it becomes more joyful or more pleasure filled. So the process is turning pain into presence. And the process is being in pain and allowing that pain to bring you to presence. So then when you are in joy or when you are in pleasure, you're allowing yourself to be present through those heightened emotions as well. As Victoria Washington once said, is all about the sensations. The more you're able to feel, the more you're able to have. And not from a materialistic standpoint, it's my belief, but from a standpoint of memories, from a standpoint of really potent, clear, frequency-driven experiences of living. So the more you can feel in the body, the more experiences you can have in life itself. And that doesn't mean you travel the world, or maybe it does, but I mean the experiences of stepping outside and witnessing magic unfold in front of you. So when the body is able to hold more experiences, it's almost rewiring the body to choose a lifestyle that sustains the experiences that allows the body to have more in a way that feels good, in a way that is nourishing. And the powerful part about all of this is that, so even throughout this journey of me discovering the beauty of presence, and even me discovering this path of cycling through the completion that happens through grief, I still have the hardships of like this hair health. Like the hair continues to fall out, you know? And but I believe also that the hair is stronger and like the scalp is growing strong. So we're in like this mixture of how to move forward with the present reality while sustaining the belief that it's better. Yeah. And that's like the reality. Right now, I'm in my childhood home. I'm living with my mom. I have for the past 3 years. So the reality is that I'm in this space, but I hold in faith in knowing that it's better than it was before, and it's going to continue to get better. So, like, yes, this moment in time is the most amazing it's ever been, and also it's going to get better, but not because I need it to get better, just because it's my belief that life continues to be better. So, same thing with the hair. And you may find that in your life is that there's an aspect of your life that is so enjoyable. There's an aspect of your life that feels so good. There's an aspect of your life where you feel like you're quote unquote doing better than others, and not from a competition state, more from an awareness state. So there is a majority of people out in the world who are doing better financially than me. Cool, awesome. But then there is a majority of people in the world who is in a different mental space than I am. In other words, the way in which I perceive life may be a little bit crisper or clearer in the frequency dial than other people. Similar with the finances, there's a majority of people who have a crisper and cleaner and clearer way of moving through the finances than I do. So there's always, and maybe not always, but you may find that in your life, similar to mine, there's buckets, there's areas, there's sensations in one aspect of your life that feel more crisp and clear. And then there's sensations and experiences in your life that feel a little bit duller, feel a little bit confusing, it's staticky. And that's a really cool space to be because you can share your wisdom in one area while you learn from another area. It's this reciprocity that happens. You offer what moves through you that's high and crisp and dialed in, while you receive from others that is static in your perspective. So then you can receive maybe a little bit more clarity through them because it's this give and take. It's this reciprocity that I also learned through Victoria Washington many years ago. And through it all, what I am discovering and what I've been playing with for a while, like since I was a child, and this more, I think, came from a control of my life, but it's transitioned into something else where the cleaning of the environment, it's something that I am just naturally talented at, chat. I love cleaning, I love organizing, and I'm really good at it, and I'm very efficient with it. And you may hear from so many other people that, when your space is tidy, when your physical space is tidy, when your virtual space is tidy, when the space emotionally is tidy, then there's going to be more spaciousness for experiences to move through. When you let go of physical material objects, then there's more space for new opportunities, new objects to move through. Or maybe it sustains with the spaciousness. Yeah. So letting go, clearing out, and witnessing the presence. throughout the discomfort of it all. Because even within the process of clearing out, there's still this grounded aspect of presence because you're discovering, ooh, this material object has an emotionally charged expression to it. Do I keep it? Do I hold it? Do I let it go? And then you move through and you realize there's some things that used to hold a charge to it, used to hold a certain emotional relation to it, but no longer it does. So now you can let it go. So it's a continuous cycling through and almost auditing. You're continuously auditing through your life of what actually is supportive for you now and what no longer wants to be in your space. And may it be okay to let it go. So it's like this loved one of mine. He went through an audit of his life, it sounds like, and he realized, wow, having Renee in my life is no longer something that feels good for me. So he, booted me away. And it's so like it's gonna be what it's gonna be. We can't force people to make decisions. So everyone, I feel that season 3 is going to be a journey around presence. Season 3 is going to be a journey and is a journey around what moves through your physical reality, what moves through your mental reality, what moves through your mental reality, emotional reality, and spiritual reality and financial reality when you are choosing the path of presence. And of course, the path of presence is directly connected to forward movement because if you are not present, then are you moving forward? If you're not present, is there movement at all? Sure, time traveling to the past, try time traveling to the future. But in the journey of time traveling, is that supportive for the forward movement? Everyone, I leave you with this wondering. What area of your life would you like to experiment with in the lens of presence? What area of your life are you curious about committing to experience the feedback that lands in your life with presence? What would you like to experiment with? I love you so much. Thank you for tuning in, and may life be a continuous journey of love, forgiveness, and presence.